All right, everybody, welcome to Full Throttle Podcast. You can tell from that music we're going to be we'll be discussing the TV show Vegas and the early 2000 series Las Vegas. I'm your host, Michael, and my co-host. What's up, Ron?
Not much. I'm just
this will be a
grooving to that groovy disco beat.
Yeah, I can dig it. This episode's gonna be a little bit shorter because we were struggling on how to put this together. It dawned on us that we're starting to run out of shows to discuss.
It's a sad day.
Yeah, without lots and lots of padding with shows that we really don't know anything about or we've never seen or we can't find, it's probably best that we just keep them short and tight. Like my hair, short and tight.
Or like mine, gone.
Mine too. I'm kidding. I'm totally bald. I'm balder than you for sure. All right, so let's get started with the 70s series Vegas with Robert Urich. And you know what? Let's change the pace. What car did he drive? Let's start off with the car stuff first.
You're putting me on the spot, man.
I know.
I wasn't prepared. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Okay, this is the one I got a lot on because I figured, and I put some pun in there, and it's kind of intended. But this is more of a rare bird than the other car we'll be talking about, so I'll probably have a little bit more information on it. But first, let's start off with my personal favorite. Phyllis Davis's character, Beatrice, she drove a 67 or a 68 Mustang. We're not sure because, you know how Hollywood is. They'll take parts here and parts here, and general consensus is it's a 67. But anyway, it's a Brittany blue convertible Mustang. And Robert Ulrich's character, did I say that right?
I think it's Urich.
Urich. Oh, boy. Well, I did voice typing, and I really screwed that up. Sorry, bud. Robert Urich. Yes, that's it. Anyway, he drives this car occasionally in season 1, but his main car is, and we're going to focus on that, is a 57 Ford Thunderbird. This car was the car that Ford had put out to directly compete with the Corvette at the time, which was, let's see, well, what year was this? Yeah, 57. Yeah, that would have been, I think the Corvette came out in 55, something like that. So they needed a competitor. It was a two-seater. It had that awesome, have you ever had, I don't know what the word I'm trying to look for is. Anyway, ever wanted a car, one of those big lead sleds with the big tire on the back?
Yeah.
That's called the Continental Tire Kit. Now, it was mostly prominent on the Continentals, the Lincolns of the days of yore, anyway, on the Continental Lincolns. But it wasn't actually first on the Continentals. But anyway, that's what it's called. I lost my place, man.
Oh, no. You're smoking too much. No, I'm kidding. He doesn't smoke weed at all.
There he is. Okay, here's an interesting bit. I couldn't find any information on the exact engine that Tana's Danny. That's funny. We have two Dannys in this show. Anyway,
right.
in this. Well, anyway, we don't know what engine was in his car. There's only two cars used, from what I could glean from the internet, the interwebs. One was obviously the stunt car, and then there's the glamour shot car. One of them, I think the stunt car had a Dodge engine in it, so we can just shove that aside for a second. As far as the engines go, there were 4 engine options. Since I don't know exactly what was in there, there were 4 engine options on those T-Birds. And I got way more information than everyone really wants to know. But
go ahead. If you need to take a breather, I'll take over, and then we'll go back to it.
Alrighty, so we'll start with, let's see, there was four series. There was the C series engine. That was the base engine. It had a 292 cubic inch, 2-barrel. It was rated at 212 horse. Excuse me. It was only available with a 3-speed manual, and approximately 3,300 of those were made. The more common D series, and get this, okay, we jumped from 3,300 units to 16,423 units. So obviously more popular. 312 cubic inch, 4-barrel, 245 horse, with either the 3-speed overdrive manual or a Ford-O-Matic transmission. I just love the 50s and all their insert buzzword here. Attach O-Matic for that. this is the future sound. You know what I mean? And on that note, the T-Bird also had the dial-o-matic power seat, which slid your seat back when the key was off and slid it back into the front position when the ignition was on. It also had a dial-o-matic radio system, which increased the volume as you increased your speed. So I guess technically it really was the future. So I didn't realize they had that kind of stuff back then, but very cool. And then there was a couple other series. There was the E series. That was their high performance special engine. It had a bigger cam, had 2 4-barrel carbs, and would output 270 horse. And the racing version put out 285 horse. And a little interesting tidbit is the.
Do you know it's really hard to say the word tidbit without screwing that up and making it sound filthy? I mean, hold on a second.
Where is your mind? Well, they developed a supercharged version of this car for the NASCAR competition in the day as well. The first 15 units, let me make sure, 14 units, had a D data plate, and they were called the DF birds. You can make it that whatever you want. Anyway, and that was why those were produced specifically so that they can get into NASCAR. Now, I can't imagine seeing a Thunderbird in a NASCAR circuit, can you?
No. What? Huh?
But of course, I don't know what 57 looked like, what NASCAR looked like in 57.
Yeah.
But anyway, and here's an interesting tidbit.
Tidbit? Speaking of tidbit, I have to say this real quick about Vegas.
Go for
Appropriately so, there's a lot of jiggle going on. It's an Aaron Spelling show. We'll get to that in a little bit. Man, there's a lot of jiggle.
Yeah, there is. There's a lot of bouncing. Anyway. Let's see. We always wonder what happened to the cars when the show ends.
Yes.
But this car in particular, these cars actually, both these cars were used they were repainted. What was it? An aqua color, and they were used in the '83 film Richard Gere was in called Breathless.
Oh, yeah. Huh. I gotta watch that again. And
Definitely. I've never seen it.
What's that?
Sorry, the alarm went off.
For the most part, I know it because the connection to one of the first movies ever to mention comic books. They had Silver Surfer in it, and his character was a huge fan. But I totally forgot about the whole car aspect. But go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, you're fine. Sorry, I'm trying to shut off my alarm so I don't interrupt it anymore. The cool thing about it was that these cars were scheduled to be crashed in one of the scenes in that movie, in Breathless. But I was going on the internet trying to find information. I found the IMCDB. If anybody doesn't know, that's the Internet Movie Car Database.
Is that new?
Anyway,
I've never even heard of that.
I don't know how new it is, to be honest. Been around a while, as far as I know.
I gotta check.
At least as long as IMDb. But anyway, it's not by the same people. I don't believe.
No, probably not. There's so many different databases now for stuff. It's crazy.
Well, it's not nearly as polished as the IMDb.
No. Well, they also have huge corporate backing behind them.
Right. There's a owner on there, a forum user on there named Vegas Bird Owner, and his father and his business owner, through much talking back and forth and convinced Aaron Spelling and his crew to sell him the cars, and they switched the car that was going to be crashed out to, I guess, a Porsche or something. I've not seen the movie, so the cars were saved, and they are still alive to this day because of it. So.
Nice. Good. You hate
That's
to
all
see
I have
these
on that.
classic cars absolutely destroyed and never seen again, and all that's left is kit cars, or just replicas. It's nice to know that the originals still exist.
I would have rather, especially with a car like this, I would have rather seen a replica crash than why did they got to do it to the original?
Yeah, I don't get that. They can just buy a cheap one, put a plastic shell over it or something, and do it. These days, it's all CGI.
What year was this show out? Was it 70?
78 to 81. Robert Urich is an unusual one because I think he still holds the record for most TV shows. and I think it was 11 TV shows that he launched, and only Vegas and Spencer for Hire lasted at least 3 seasons. I say if a show lasts 3 seasons, it's considered something of a success. Below that, you're just like, oh, it could have been a fluke that it lasted to a second season. But most of his shows got canceled immediately. But sadly, he did pass away, I believe, in 2001. And if he hadn't passed on, I mean, his record could have been 15, 16 shows. Who knows?
Right, definitely. Was it he? I think when I was looking through information, didn't he have a? What did he have? Was it cancer or?
I'm pretty sure it was cancer.
Yeah.
I know that he had severe complications. He had a TV show on TNT, which was actually kind of popular. It was called Lazarus Man. It was a Western, and he got sick, so TNT canceled it instead of waiting for him to get better, which is BS in my opinion. He went to remission, and then he launched the remake of Love Boat. And it was on UPN. It lasted for 2 seasons. He got sick again, and it got canceled. And then he did the Emeril Lagasse show. Do you remember Emeril Lagasse? Everybody's crazy about him for a short period of time, constantly going around going, bam, bam, bam.
Right.
And
I love...
he died shortly after that was canceled.
Oh, dang.
Yeah,
I had a thought in my head and I lost it.
It's okay. While you think about that, I'll let you know that show Lazarus Man that he was on, since got canceled due to not ratings, but to him being sick, he actually sued Castle Rock Television and TNT and got $1.47 million.
Wow. That was the thought in my head. I would imagine, well, cancer victims and you see a lot of drive in people when they get to a certain point, as long as they have something to help them drive, fight, something to fight for, you know what I mean? Not just their life. Just, I would imagine he loved acting, obviously. That would have been something to help me drive and fight, and, taking that away would have just, I don't know, that's my opinion.
He is actually a really well-known college football player. He played for Florida State University, but ended up graduating from a different college, Michigan State University, with a different degree. He got a master's degree in broadcast research and management, then became an actor. I was wrong, not 11 TV shows, 13. I'm going to go off real quick about him. Bob, Carol, Ted, and Alice, an adaptation of the movie. That was his first series. He did SWAT, which is awesome. If you've never seen SWAT, go find it. Soap, also very good, but he was only in the first season. Tabitha, which is a spin-off of Bewitched when her daughter's older. He was in Vegas. Gavilan, which not a lot of people remember that one. Then he did Spencer for Hire, which I think is
Love
probably
that show.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's probably his most well-known show, and one of the only shows I know set in Boston. And he did American Dreamer, which bombed. Crossroads bombed. It Had to Be You bombed. Then Lazarus Man, and the rest of them we discussed.
Right. So it took me a while to remember that's where I remembered him from. I mean, I've seen some of his other work, but Spencer for Hire was when I first, as far as I remember, when I first figured out who he was.
Yeah, for me it was Ice Pirates. I had seen that in the theaters a year before Spencer came out, and that's what I knew him from.
Was that one of our rentals, our high school movie rentals?
It possible. I can't remember, but it's very possible that was one of our regular rentals.
It seems to me like it would have been something you and I would have
definitely.
rented.
It was goofy and fun and tons of special effects, and definitely something that we would have watched.
Right. Okay, I think I want to watch it again, to be honest.
The best triple feature that I ever saw at the drive-in, which triple features at a drive-in are rare anyway, it was Ice Pirates, Star Trek 3, and Last Starfighter, and I stayed up for the whole thing, and I was 7 years old.
No way. You were how old?
7. So I must have had like some sort of just drive keep me awake. Like, I gotta make it. Only one more movie to go.
Did you have some rope licorice? All right, starting to wind down.
A lot of sugar, and maybe I took a nap during the day. I can't believe I made it through that.
Sugar injection.
All right, so the show Vegas is actually created by Michael Mann, even though it was produced by the Spelling Goldberg team. Spelling Goldberg is basically known for doing tons of fluff. either shows that had some sort of serious tone, and then they would just show in like shots of people's butts and chests, and like they were big on the jiggle factor and the glitz. And it makes sense that they would buy this show from Michael Mann, who was a serious crime writer. Everybody knows him, of course, as the creator of Miami Vice, or the co-creator of Miami Vice, and Crime Story. He would do Manhunter, Heat, The Insider, tons of really great crime cop movies and stuff like that. If you watch Vegas, you can see that at least in the first season, it's very serious stories mixed in with the glitz going on around it. But I noticed as the show goes on that his controls seem to be falling apart. And I think that's why Tony Curtis quit after the first season, is he realized it wasn't going to be the show that he signed up for.
Right. It never is. Never stays that way.
Yeah, a lot of shows they get mucked with by either the network or the executive producers, and then the creator just walks. Look at Heroes. One of the greatest first seasons I've ever seen. The network stepped in and destroyed it, so he quit and created Pushing Daisies.
So one of the other things I liked about this show is going back to the theme song when you started it. And I didn't know this until I started. I was curious. I wanted to figure out what this guy was. Some guy with some cred. His name is Dominic. And if I kill this, excuse me. It's Frontier. I'm guessing it's French or Italian, maybe. I think it might be Italian. Anyway, he did the music for like one of the shows we did before, Matt Houston.
Yeah.
Going on further back, he did the Gumball Rally.
Oh, speaking of cars, we were talking about doing the Cannonball Run movies. There's tons of these car racing movies that we could discuss after the shows are done. I haven't seen Gumball Rally. I want to watch it.
It's awesome. It's stupid fun.
Yeah. That's the one.
But there's a whole list.
Right?
If you ever want to, I'm sorry, what?
That's the one with Michael Sarrazin, correct?
Crap! I haven't watched it in so long.
It's okay.
I couldn't name anybody in it at the moment, but anyway, if you ever get a chance, if you're into the music parts of this, look at Dominic Frontier. It's Frontiere. Definitely well worth a listen. There's a lot of it out on YouTube if you want to give it a shot.
Oh, okay.
Anyway,
yes.
Moving on.
So for the show, it's finally out on DVD, the complete series. You can get it for pretty cheap. Weirdly enough, I don't think they release complete seasons. They do season 1, part 1, part 2, then season 2, part 1, part 2. It's a strange choice not to release it. It's not like the seasons were very, very long, but that's just how Paramount went with it.
If they're going to make it, they're going to make a little extra cash. That's the way I look at it. And for those who don't know, this is Vegas with a $sign at the end.
Yes, there's three different Vegas shows. There is the one that we're discussing right now. Then there is Las Vegas, which is coming up next. But then there's the Vegas show that would lasted for a year with Dennis Quaid and he was on The Shield.
Michael Chiklis.
Michael Chiklis, thank you.
Yep.
But I never actually saw a single
that looks promising. Apparently the ratings weren't all that great on it, and that, to me, I never got a chance to actually see it, but I thought it looked pretty awesome from what I saw.
The show was very, very expensive.
I
think they said $3.5 million per episode, and with network television not doing as well as it used to, you can see why they canceled it. There is another Vegas TV show that I was trying to find that we could discuss. It was a short-lived TV show in '99 on UPN called The Strip. It was a cop show set in Vegas. Sean Patrick Flannery's a star, and he had a really awesome car. I can't find anything about this show. No clips, except for like one brief commercial on YouTube. So I apologize for not being able to cover that. And there's going to be a lot of TV shows that we tried to cover, we plain and simply cannot find. Because you remember last year we were trying to find the 18 Wheels of Justice when we were doing our trucker episode?
Right.
Nowhere. You can't
find
a single episode. There's one in Spanish, and I don't speak Spanish, so I have no idea what's going on.
I think the next best thing we could do is reach out to our fans. If anybody out there has a VHS tape,
of
course, do we have anything to play those on anymore?
Yeah. And then there's some shows where we're still not certain we're going to cover, like Cobra, which isn't a very good TV show, even though the car is awesome. Renegade,
Right.
which I know was on for 6 seasons, but I think is god awful. He had a cool motorcycle. There's some stuff we're just not going to be able to do. So we were going to do a season 3, but we're going to shorten it. We're just going to make season 2 longer than the normal 6 episodes that we planned. And then we're going to start discussing movies. We want to discuss some trucker movies and some car movies and maybe some airplane stuff. Like we have the Iron Eagle 30th anniversary versus Top Gun
Woohoo!
episode coming up soon. For Valentine's Day, we're going to be discussing the Love Bug Herbie series. And I think that we should try to do 2 episodes. We usually do 1 a month, but I think we should try to do 2 this month because 50 years ago today, I say today, but when you're listening to this episode, it's irrelevant, is the 60th anniversary or 50th anniversary of the Batman TV show.
Right.
So how can we not talk about one of the coolest cars ever? And then we'll talk about Green Hornet with that. That will probably be our next episode. Check us out on Facebook. We're on RetroRocketEntertainment.com. And Full Throttle Podcast, a special page where we share the podcast, but we also share a lot of information about cool cars and movie cars and stuff like that. And so I think probably time now for us to do our last show of this episode is Las Vegas. From 2003, it was on NBC. And give me a sec, I'll get the theme song going. Here we go. Alright, and you'll notice that is not the original theme song. That is the syndicated and DVD version of the show. The original series had A Little Less Conversation remix from Elvis.
Ah, oh, right, gotcha.
Yeah, so I guess they didn't get the rights, which seems silly. They didn't think the show was going to go on DVD or syndicated, that they couldn't put that on the show. That theme song is kind of generic. I prefer, of course... Well, who doesn't prefer Elvis? If you choose anything over Elvis, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
Unless it's Frank Sinatra. I'll give you leeway for Frank Sinatra.
There's the King, and then there's... I don't know. He's in a...
2 completely different artists, but did you know that Frank Sinatra hated Elvis?
Really?
Yeah, he hated him because he thought his music was garbage, but his daughter said he was just jealous because Elvis was making his album sales go down. Like, the music scene was changing by the time Elvis really kicked into high gear. That old school crooner kind of music was dying off and rock and roll took over, so he was really pissed at Elvis. And trust me, Sinatra was pissed at a lot of people. He had a lot of grudges for weird reasons. But oddly enough, out of all the people that he let it go. Some years down the road, after his first breakthrough, I think it was in the late 60s, that they appeared on a show together. And Elvis and Sinatra sang a song. It's kind of cool that they mended that.
That's awesome. I'd like to hear that one.
Yeah. All right, so Las Vegas, of the 2 shows, this one I prefer, even though there was a lot of mucking with the storyline. How many episodes of this have you seen? Because I kind of know that I've seen every single one of them, but I don't think you have.
For this go round, I was only able to see like 3, and then, but maybe a couple years ago, I sat down and tried to watch it all. I've probably seen a whole season.
Yeah, I think it's still on TNT, if I'm correct. Yeah. I'm trying to remember. It used to show in the afternoons. It could still be on. I'm not sure. DreamWorks, I believe, produced this, and they've been having a lot of financial trouble, so I don't know if their show is up in like hiatus or just no one has bought it right now.
I don't know.
But this was...
I thought it was...
Go ahead.
Yeah, I thought it was very well put together as far as... And it's an interesting take on it, on the whole Vegas scene.
Yeah. But it's not from a cop perspective or a detective perspective. It's from surveillance and security, and which is kind of a unique approach. You see more of how a casino works. Like, what are the inner workings of... how does a guest service person do things? How does a pit boss do? You know, even down to the valet. Which, I've always had a problem with the fact that they made Mike the only black male character, a valet. it almost seemed, I don't want to say racist, to keep the black guy in like this little role, but I'm glad that eventually they turned him into a security team member.
So everybody's got to start somewhere, right? I don't know.
Yes, I don't know.
But I agree with you. I agree with you.
Yeah, it just seemed like it was an easy network thing to do. Well, a black guy can't be a lead, so let's just make him kind of like a lesser than. And like, you could definitely make him the lead. Now, I think
Let's say he did a really good job, though.
He did. He's one of my favorite characters. Josh Duhamel doesn't get a lot of credit. A lot of people just look at him as like he was in this Jiggle show, and he was in the Transformers movie where you really can't act. But he has done a couple really good independent movies that you should see that he just absolutely phenomenal in.
I could have swore there was... Well, yeah, I guess I've seen him in Transformers, and I think you and I were talking this a while back when we were trying to figure out what shows we're going to do. I couldn't figure out what it is I had seen him in before Vegas.
Was it Tad Hamilton?
See, I don't know.
Oh, I know he was on soap operas, but then he was in Win a Date with Tad Hamilton, and that's what got him the Las Vegas movie or show.
Maybe that was it. I don't know. See, I don't pay much attention to the chick flicks.
Yeah, well, I saw this one because I'm a big Topher Grace fan, so I wanted to see it. And I don't remember it being very good, but that's definitely what put him on the map.
I'm not saying there's not some good ones out there. I just don't typically go for them. I usually watch them when my wife wants to watch them. So,
dude, I'm a sucker for You've Got Mail. I do not apologize for this whatsoever. I will watch You've Got Mail anytime that it's. Oh, hey, sure, why not? I got nothing else to do. I won't go to work. I'll watch this.
that's one of the handful of exceptions to the rules.
Yeah.
What's the other one? Oh shoot!
You know what I won't watch?
Billy Crystal. What's the Billy Crystal in
Harry Met Sally?
Yes, When Harry Met Sally. Love that movie. And you would think I love it so much that I would remember the character, the freaking actors that were in it. But
yeah, Josh Duhamel appears in a series. I can't remember the name of the writer. He does The Notebook and all those sappy, lovey-dovey. What are those movies written? Nick Sparks or something like that?
Nicholas Sparks, I think.
Yeah, I cannot stand those movies, but he made one called Safe Haven, and that was pretty much the last gasp of him. Josh Duhamel's back on TV, or he's doing like lower budget movies, and it's kind of a shame because actually, like, he did a movie called Scenic Route, which if you have to choose anything to see him in and see him really act, that's the one you go with.
I'll give that one a shot.
Yeah, and you were saying that it was kind of a coincidence that both Vegas shows starred somebody named Danny. I don't know if it was... I feel like the show is an intentional homage to the old Vegas show. Like, the guy who created it, Gary Scott Thompson, loved that show and it's like, well, you know what? We never see action shows anymore. The only thing on the air is Alias. Let's bring back something that has action, but at the same time has... You know, it can be for everybody. It's fun and exciting. There's lots of glitz and glamour, but it's not dumb. I think it's a fun show that doesn't play down. It just wants to have a show where you can just sit back, relax. There's no stress. There's no serious drama for the most part, and just have a good hour with the whole family.
Definitely.
But Gary Scott Thompson is also the creator of the Fast and the Furious series. So even though Vegas isn't on the air anymore, you betcha he's getting in huge checks every time there's a sequel.
I'll say. Going back to the other Danny, what was it? Yeah. Come on, Danny Tanna. It was Dan Tanna, sorry. His name was Dan Tanna. And it was actually named after a restaurant that's apparently still in business to this day.
Yeah, I've seen that, and I thought that was weird.
Well, that's pretty cool. Another interesting little tidbit.
Tidbit? That's our new word, tidbit.
Tidda. There's a UH in there. Tidda. Anyway. What is it? Who's the other people in there? Nikki Cox.
Yeah, it's funny.
I had something going.
The cast didn't last that long. Some of them, Nessa was only on the show for 2 seasons, and I have not seen her since. I really liked her character. Mary, which is Nikki Cox's character, she would be taken off the show at the end of season 4. She was taken off, and so was James Caan. James Caan turned out was too expensive, and I think he didn't like the direction of the show, and he wanted to go back to doing movies. So
Right.
both of them left at the end of season 4 with a pretty good storyline. And then Tom Selleck came in as the new owner. Now, a lot of owners would come in and out of this place. Dean Cain, I believe, was an owner for a short period of time. And what is the name?
Serious?
He was on a good arc. What is the name of the lady? She was in Wayne's World as Wayne's ex-girlfriend who bought him a gun rack. I can't remember her name. She's really, really crazy skinny. Laura Flynn Boyle. That's right. The voice was called to me from another room. I can't remember. She ran the hotel, and her storyline is crazy. She dies in such a crazy fashion that you cannot believe it even happened. And the lots of guest stars would show up in this too. I remember specifically in the first season, I believe Van Damme. He dies in a weird fashion. Apparently, this is a thing. All these famous people would show up and get killed. Stallone was in it. Sean Astin, Terry Bradshaw. Of course, Dean Cain was in a couple episodes. Rachel Lee Cook, Elliot Gould, Dave Foley, Brian Austin Green. John Lovitz was actually in a handful of episodes. Jay Moore. I believe this is the show where Jay Moore met Nikki Cox, and they're still married to this day.
Really?
Yeah.
Very cool.
One of the best cameos or guest stars was from Jerry O'Connell because it allowed a crossover with. Do you remember the TV show Crossing Jordan with Jill Hennessy?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, they are in the same universe. So I think there's about 4 episodes of Crossing Jordan and 4 episodes of Vegas where they exist in the same world. It's pretty cool. I love when they do that in shows. It opens up their world.
I do too.
You know, Charlie's Angels and Vegas actually exist in the same world because Dan Tana appears at the end of Charlie's Angels, and then 5 minutes later you see the first episode of Vegas.
That's awesome. Now, I love it when they do that. Like, Law and Order did a really good job of that, where they had to have the one show and then you'd have the court show afterwards, but they tied in together. But there were 2 separate shows. I love it when they do that sort of thing. It's just...
Now, not a lot of people know this, but do you remember the Knight Rider remake? It was like 2008, 2009.
Do I have to?
You didn't like it?
I don't... Was that the... I don't know. Is that the one where there were multiple cars?
No, that's Team Knight Rider. That is garbage.
I'm
talking about the one
garbage.
where it's the son of Michael Knight. It's the one with the car that would do like camouflage and had body armor and stuff like that. Do you remember it was only on?
That's not Knight 2000, right?
Yeah,
or Knight 3000 or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I remember that.
But that exists in the same world as Vegas too. There is an episode where he goes to Las Vegas, and you see the characters you see Josh Duhamel and not Nikki Cox. Why am I so terrible with names? I even literally have this in front of my face.
I am too.
My brain is going.
There's supposed to be something in the air.
Yeah. Molly Sims, they actually show up at I think it's the 5th episode of that show. And the reason is, the creator of Vegas was the showrunner on the new Knight Rider. And he was never able to finish Vegas. It ended on a cliffhanger, and NBC said, screw it, we're not going to finish it. And left everybody hanging. So if you watch the Vegas episode of the new Knight Rider, you see the storyline wrapped up.
Okay, can we get that on DVD?
No, but I believe it's streaming on Hulu.
Woo! I love Hulu sometimes.
Yeah, I can't remember if I said this or not. Yeah, Tom Selleck comes in at the 5th season. He's the new owner, and they found a way of saving money by basically having him show up like once every 3 episodes. And he would only show up for like 5 minutes for the most part. You know, and who doesn't love Tom Selleck? I don't care if it's 5 seconds. I'll take Tom Selleck pretty much in any show.
That's right. All right.
You gotta love the stash. Have Tom Selleck show up as a zombie in one of the episodes of Walking Dead, and I'm gonna watch it again.
Although, what is it? Is Tom Selleck in a show now where he's stashless?
No, and I never want to see that again. No? He did that for a very short period of time where he took off his mustache, and it was like seeing your grandma naked. It's something you never ever. It's horrifying. It makes your blood just drop, and you're just like, oh, the nightmares are gonna continue again.
Cannot unsee that.
You cannot unsee Tom Selleck's upper lip without a mustache. It's weird. It's like it's supposed to be there. It's just unnatural. So yeah, he has a goatee now. He's been doing those Stone Cold movies, not
Mm-hmm.
Stone Cold Steve Austin, the detective shows Stone. And then he's been doing Blue Bloods, which I think is in its 6th season, which I've never seen a single episode of, but people love it.
Obviously, 6 seasons. That's one of them on my to watch list, but I've got too many others on that said list.
Yeah, well, your Netflix queue is probably filled. Everybody's Netflix queue
Yeah.
is filled with shows with like, I'll get to it later.
I think there's a limit on the queue as well, so you're like, crap, I can't add any more.
Oh, I didn't know that even was possible. Who did that? Maybe they couldn't handle the database or whatever. Like, this guy has 6,000 shows in his queue. We can't have that.
We can't be responsible for his couch potato-ness.
What I've been told is that it's called queue gridlock, where you find yourself constantly scrolling and adding new things and then perusing over what you already have in your queue. But at no point do you actually go, watch that. You just basically just scroll, and then go to YouTube, watch something else. Oh, look,
I have never done that.
What?
I have never done that.
I have tortured with my Netflix queues at times because I'll just sit there and scroll and go, I'm not in the mood. Oh, that person isn't here to watch that with. Oh, I'm on episode 5. I guess I can wait. And that's the one big problem with Netflix.
Oh crap! Now it's time to go to bed.
Yeah.
Dang it!
How many hours have I been scrolling? Oh my god! Sir, you have carpal tunnel because of it.
We wake up the next day, you got 18 shows that you clicked on, didn't realize it because you were half asleep.
Yeah. I love how Netflix makes you feel guilty when it goes, are you still watching? Like, I want to see a seriously
right.
After, just a disapproving look. Netflix, seriously, you're on your 12th episode of this. Are you still watching?
My wife will watch either Friends or Grey's Anatomy going to sleep. And that's how she wakes up and knows she needs to put the tablet down because there's no more sound. Like...
So I'll say this about Vegas. It's of the 2 shows, I choose this one. My favorite character is actually Sam. Nobody really gives her credit, but she's the one that actually just basically, she's a guest host specialist, and she has to go through so many insane things to keep these guests happy, and she's so much fun to watch her just like get stressed out and deal with these lunatic people. And I've worked in a casino, and watching some of these people, I was surveillance, if anybody's wondering. I was surveillance, and you watch some of these people just misbehave so poorly, but because they're big spenders, they get away with it.
Yeah. What else was...
What's that?
Dang it. Speaking of Sam, there was something big that she was in. It was Beverly Hills, that's what it was. Yeah.
Well, she was
Beverly Hills
Rock.
90210.
Yeah, she was on The Rock. Remember, she's Nicolas Cage's wife.
Oh, right.
All right, so I think that brings us to the end of this episode. It's funny, I said it was going to be a shorter episode, but we're almost at 40 minutes, so I guess it's only a little bit shorter. Tiny bit shorter.
Well, I suppose we ought to say something about the car first.
Oh, duh. Isn't it weird that this episode's so different because we started off with the cars in Vegas, which we never do. We never start off with the car information, so I'm sure there's at least 2 people that said, oh, God. Here we go, and then fell asleep in the first 2 minutes. And in this one, I almost shut down the show without talking about the cars. Go!
And then there'll be 2 other people going, man!
This podcast needs a little less conversation, a little more details. Go ahead. Did you like that?
Okay, so I loved it. Great tie-in. So Danny McCoy's car is probably one of the more popular cars from the 60s and early 70s. Well, let's go back to the 60s. I don't know. Diehard in the wool Camaro fans would probably say, every one of them was great. But personally, this is my favorite. It's a 69 Camaro SS convertible. Well, preferably I'd have a hardtop, but that's my own preference. It was Daytona yellow and here's where I got a little bit. A lot of people were calling them rally stripes, and maybe that's just an overall term, and maybe I don't know my stuff as well as I think. But from what little bit of information I could look up, it's actually the Z28 style stripes that were on this car. Because the actual SS stripes were tinier, the little hockey stick looking thing that goes from the front headlight and then straight down the side of the car instead. The SS Performance Package. Oh, this was also the '69 was the last of this first generation of Camaros. The SS Performance Package consisted of either a 350 or a 396 cubic inch V8, and it had an upgraded chassis to handle the additional power. And this is, I hate it when they do this. It did look good on this car. I'll give it that. A lot of car like your aftermarket hoopties, or what do you want to call it? You see, oh, this perfect example. I saw a picture the other day. Somebody popped up, modified their vehicle. I can't remember what it was, but it was some regular Joe Schmo family sedan, and the hood scoop on it from a distance looks like a decent hood scoop, but when you zoom in on up close of it, it's a paint roller pan turned upside down and painted the color of the car.
What?
Like, are you kidding me?
Right.
That's classic. But anyway, I digress. The SS had air inlets on the hood, and they were for aesthetics only. They looked like they would allow air into the engine bay, but they were non-functional. But they did look good, I think. Anyway, like I said, I have to admit I don't know my Camaros as well as I should, and for that I apologize to you fans. But the convertible SS was available with both the 350 and the 396, like I said, but I'm unsure of what was in Danny's car.
Mm-hmm.
So for the sake of time, I will just focus on the base model, which was the SS 350. That was the more popular option anyway. That was the engine code L48. It has a 5.7 liter, 350 cubic inches with an output of 300 horse and 380 foot-pounds of torque. And I hope I got that right, because there's a lot of numbers flying around out there. It's like, it also had a compression ratio of 10.25 to 1. That's the same base engine that was in the Corvette of the same year.
Can I say this?
No, I tell you.
You've had
go for it.
The information that you have provided in this episode is more than if you took the rest of the episodes that we ever discussed and combined them. Usually you're just like, I got nothing on this. I don't even, like, you can't find anything on anybody's car or motorcycle, whatever. You're just like, it's cool.
Some of them were so obscure.
I know, like, it's my fault. I tried to find the most obscure show possible and to frustrate you with it. Then came Bronson.
That doesn't make any less cooler.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, we're gonna have fun with some of the movies we watch, because we're gonna be like, I got nothing on Black Moon Rising. Oh, I got nothing on the Wraith. I don't know what stroke race, what he was driving.
I got a bit on the Wraith. I did look that up a long time ago. But I was gonna say, it's one thing that interested me on like a lot of the cars from the '60s, and this I miss actually, although it would probably drive a salesman nuts, because I'd be sitting in that freaking sales room for 3 days trying to figure out what freaking engine I want to put in my car. But like this day and age, you got listen to my English. You have like 3 or 4 different options, and whatever option you pick, the package, everything that comes with it is what you get, and you can't intermingle stuff. You can't special order anything anymore.
Yeah.
It sucks. You'd think at least the Mustangs and Camaros and the Challenger are there, and there's some aftermarket stuff available, but I want to see stock out of the factory stuff coming out where you have an option and you pick and choose from an a la carte, and you actually build the car you want.
Why is it we're in a world with so much technology, so much choice, but it seems like there's so many things that you're used to that you can't build the way? Why am I still seeing cable packages the way they are? Why can't I just pay like, okay, well, it's $1 a station, and you pick like the 50 stations you would watch? I don't want 20 stations that are shit, that I have no interest in whatsoever. Why do I need a home shopping network? I'm never even going to look at the home shopping network. Can I have El Rey? Can I have the Fuel channel? Can I have G4? It makes no sense. And the same thing with cars. Why is it the corporations are not letting people build the cars the way they want to? If the American companies are in such dire straits financially, why aren't they doing that? Why aren't they letting people go crazy with whatever they want?
I think it probably comes down to the bottom dollar or whatever, just production costs. So one person wants to do this certain thing. Well, now they've got to do some, now they got to shut down their line or whatever. But I don't know. Like the Copo Camaros. Is it Copo? Do I got it right now? Yanko Camaros. Uh,
I remember
See,
the
like I
Al
said, I don't.
Yankovic. I remember the Al Yankovic.
Yank Yankovic. Well, the Yanko was actually a car dealer, and he would actually do his own thing. They get the cars from the factory, and then he'd upgrade it. Like he'd put 427s into the Camaros, but they wouldn't offer that from the factory. So he did his own thing. Now, I think Ford may do that with the Mustang and stuff, and that's the kind of stuff I'm seeing happening. But again, I'd like to see more of that coming from the factory. But it's easier to do it that way, I guess, because then the factory's not shutting down production to make this one-off car that, you know, and maybe there's more to it than that, and feel free to comment on that if you want. But anyway, I digress.
Any more car deets?
No, that's it, man.
All right, so that brings us to the end of this episode. What?
That car is actually still alive, if anybody wants to know. It's actually in Josh Duhamel's possession. He's restoring it.
Nice.
So, anyway, that's it.
All right, so we are not going to take as long as we usually do with episodes this time. Sometimes it's a month to 6 weeks. I am going to try as hard as I can to get you to watch Batman and Green Hornet, and we're going to come back for the 50th anniversary of that show in just a little bit. And by a little bit, I mean like 5 minutes from now. So you better be ready in 5 minutes.
That's right.
All right, everybody. Have a good night. Check us out on Facebook under Retro Rock Entertainment or Full Throttle Podcast. Ron, thank you again for joining me with this show.
Anytime, man.
All right. Have a good night.
Later.